Welcome, everyone. We've got Merrick Block with us today via webcam to answer some questions about best practices in workplace investigations. If you like what you hear and like to learn more about the initial intake phase of the investigation process, you may want to watch the video recording of the webinar that Merrick presented on this topic. You can find it at www.eyesight.com/webinars. Who do you speak to first when conducting an investigation, the reporter or the implicated person?
Always speak to the reporter first. It's important to debrief the reporter on what he or she knows and how he or she knows it. That way you can decide on the best resolution strategy. The implicated person is spoken to last for a number of reasons. First, the implicated person is entitled to respond to the proof that you gathered against him and her, to offer exculpatory information or even mitigating circumstances. Primarily, it's because the implicated person has a fundamental fairness right to learn the proof and respond to it.
Do you discourage recording interviews with the reporter?
Yes, I do. I think recording an interview with the reporter has a chilling effect on the discussion, and I don't think it really adds anything to the information gathering. First of all, it can be impractical. Both of you will sit and stare at the tape recorder. Someone is going to have to type up a transcript, and you'll probably have to share a transcript with the other person. The better opportunity is to take good notes, turn those notes into a good memo, and then you'll have a good piece of evidence to justify any investigation outcome.
Is it a good idea to ask the reporter who else he has told about the problem and what he told that person?
Absolutely, for a number of reasons. First of all, as the investigator, it's your obligation to manage confidentiality. You now own the case, and in many ways, you're responsible for what's happened earlier. Also, by asking who else the reporter has spoken to, you can identify whether your reporter is forum shopping, looking for a sympathetic ear. You can find out if another department has already tried or actually addressed the issue. And you can respect the prerogatives of other departments that have some involvement with the facts at issue. Finally, by asking who the reporter has spoken to, it may help to identify witnesses that you'll like to interview once you get started with the investigation.
How do you address confidentiality and telling the reporter not to assist the investigation in light of the NLRB ruling in Banner Health?
That's actually two separate points. The Banner Health ruling stands for the proposition that an investigator cannot gag a witness from discussing the investigation process with colleagues. It really is an issue of confidentiality and touches on the ability to discuss. Assisting the investigation is a very different issue. There, the investigator has full control over the investigation steps and should be very clear with investigation participants, the witnesses, management, others, that they should not take any steps in the information gathering or any other part of the investigation except at your express direction.
When a reporter asks if the conversation is confidential, how do I answer that accurately?
The correct answer is yes, but there's no way to guarantee absolute confidentiality. The investigation process depends on the ability to discreetly and confidentially gather information. But that confidentiality is not absolute. There may be an obligation to escalate the issue internally. There may be an obligation to commit to report the report to a government agency. So you promise confidentiality, you just don't guarantee absolute confidentiality. But to the extent you can, you protect it.
Do you believe that investigators have biases, and how can they overcome them?
I believe investigators have biases because I think everyone has biases. The question for an investigator is whether you act on that bias or you allow it to affect your thinking. With a standard investigation protocol, with good training and experience and an investigation framework, you should be able to manage your own personal feelings in the context of doing a quality investigation. But there's no way you can avoid having biases. They're part of the human condition.
Thank you, Merrick. If you're interested in learning more about investigation interviews, the intake process, and the decision to investigate, go to our website, www.eyesight.com/resources, and watch the webinar recording.